Here we are in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, at the Bed-Stuy Cafe with my beautiful, not really former student, but friend from back in the day, 1995, Cedra Sebastian, who is now Associate Director of the Brotherhood Sister Soul. And she is doing all kinds of wonderful things for the young people of New York City. And so I'm going to ask her to tell us a little bit about what it is she does.
Okay, well, thank you for spending your digital time on me. So yeah, I work for the Brotherhood Sister Soul, BroSis. I've been there for the last 11 years. I started out as a summer intern, and now I'm a part of the leadership team there. And we work with about 250 young people, 6 to 18 years old, and then work with a group of 20-year-olds who are still just making that transition between out of high school and adulthood. And the programs that I co-facilitate are Rites of Passage program for young women, a co-educational space for youth activists, and I'll be leading our international study trip to Ghana this summer. So I'm very excited about that.
Wow. Why Ghana?
Why Ghana? So Ghana is a place that we've gone to before, and the idea is, you know, to be able to bring young people to a space that maybe they've heard some of, but probably mostly have misinformation about. And especially when you talk about countries in Africa, like for instance, I'll give you an example. So we were talking about the trip to a group of 7th graders, and I was saying, yeah, you know, when I was in South Africa a few years ago, we got to play with the penguins. And they were like, penguins? It's not hot in Africa? And I was like, well, we were in the continent of Africa, but Africa has over 50 countries, and South Africa is very close to South Pole region, and guess what? Penguins live there. Well, you can see, you know, people go to South Africa for whale watching. It was cold. We went there in July, and that was their winter time. I had to wear coat. I could see my breath at night.
Yeah.
It was cold. So that was an interesting conversation with them. It was silly, but it was a relief for them, I think, to get some correct information. But also, it kind of opened up their desire to want to learn more. And these are young women who identify predominantly as Dominican, Colombian, and Mexican. So I think with folks who kind of feel like they have a closer tie to the continent, it's a sense of going back home, you know, being able to go back and fetch it, that whole concept of Sankofa. So we're looking forward to going with this group. The last time we had a group was in 2007, a group went, and then we had another group that went in 2001.
Can you say a little bit about the work you do with Rites of Passage in terms of instilling a sense of self-worth in girls?
Well, the Rites of Passage program is a 4 to 6 year program, which is cool because the young women are not just in and out, and they really have a space where they can develop over time. And I think that level of consistency and intensity really helps them to think about their identity and their confidence in a different way. And they get to understand and also feel that it's not a rushed process. And I think that's also helpful in them strengthening who they are, having verbal confidence for one, like being able to speak up and speak out no matter what, whether they're using, you know, $5 words or $1 million words, that they feel comfortable expressing themselves, and that's a part of the confidence building. And then I think also taking them to spaces that they may never go to before, and it doesn't need to be as far as, you know, South Africa or Brazil, but it could be downtown Manhattan, and having them feel comfortable in downtown Manhattan, because there are a lot of our young people who, they don't leave, you know, Harlem. Yep. They go to 125th Street to go to the movie theater. Right. They play in Riverbank State Park. Washington Heights is a whole nother world unless they're going there for some sneaker or clothing sale, and that's it. Yeah. So to take them down to Lincoln Center, you know, we're going to see the same movie we would see at Magic Johnson Theater, but it's by Lincoln Center. It's a whole nother world for them, you know, and it's interesting to see those who kind of take it in as I'm going to the movie theater, and others who kind of cringe at, like, why are we down here? Like, I think we're in the wrong place. And dealing with people looking at them and you know, wanting to know if they're on a school trip and where they're from, as though you have to be on a school trip visiting from somewhere, because there's no way that you can live or hang out here. Right. So just really helping them to feel comfortable in their own skin and in their own city is a way to build that confidence too.
I recently saw a video interview with Toni Morrison, and she actually said, the interviewer asked her, did she think the bluest dye was necessary for today's African-American girl?
I'm sure she said yes.
She said no.
Oh, really?
Right? She said she thought African-American girls today had a lot of confidence. If anything, they actually felt superior. And that was stunning to me. I wanted to know which girl she was hanging around with.
That's interesting. You know, it's interesting because I would think that she would still say that book is relevant. I mean, I'm sure she believes it's relevant, but in that, in the way that she expressed it, I would think she would feel like it's still relevant. I think about some of the young women that I work with, and unless you have them one-on-one, they will not speak out loud. And they're bright. They have things to say, but they will not speak out loud. And it could be a room full of girls. It could be boys and girls. They could be the only girl. They don't share their thoughts. And then I do know other young women who I'm like, ooh, calm down, boo. Calm down. Break down. I know you fly. I know you super fly. Tone it down a little bit. But I think they're definitely still young women who feel like they would be better if one thing or series of things on them were different. Whether it was their hair texture, their eye color, their skin complexion, the size of some body part, their height. I know for me it's hilarious, but it took a long time for me to get over that I was going to be short forever. Like, I did not grow height-wise after 8th grade. And that was tough for a while because I wanted to be tall. And it wasn't getting there, you know? And that was a struggle for me. But there are young women who still deal with those things and, you know, test out every single cream on their skin, on their face and body to figure it out. You know, one day their hair is purple, the next day it's 12 feet down their back. But I think the lessons in that book are still very relevant for at least the young women that I work with. I see in my neighborhood.
Do you identify as a feminist, and do you see the work that you do as a kind of feminist project?
Definitely. And I know that there are young women who probably who have an understanding of that word, and others who don't. For some of them it's like a curse word, and for others it's something that they're exploring and playing around with, and, you know, might get cutesy intellectual and be like, well, I'm a womanist.
Oh, right.
Because they did their Alice Walker work. But absolutely, you know, and I've been in a blessed space to know that the men that I work with also identify in that way, which is a powerful thing, I think, for girls to see as well. That it's not just a girl thing for girls, but that type of equity is going to be useful in community, period.
Wow. Well, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with me. I have 1,000 other questions, but I will save them for another time.